Hi everyone, my name's Laura and I'm a children's doctor up in Yorkshire. I'm doing a short series of videos answering questions from our community and children around coronavirus and health. So at this time, I think many of us are asking massive questions. Coronavirus 19 has really shocked us. It has made us think again about how fragile life is. We're asking questions about our own health and well-being. We are asking questions about, could I lose my loved ones and lose them in a way that I hadn't planned for, that was unexpected, that shakes to the core all the usual ways that I would like to show love to a loved one in need, or to an ill relative, that shakes the way that we would usually carry out our traditions, to say goodbye to somebody. And these are difficult days, but I think it is really healthy if we don't let these questions and thoughts be the secret whispers. But we recognise that we're all in this together, and it's okay to open up conversations about this, and it's okay to have the courage to say that we have these fears, that we perhaps want to talk about, perhaps want to think about, and it's really okay to address these. Now, in this little video, of course, I can't answer these big questions, but I wondered whether it might be helpful to share a little bit about what I've learned about grief, both as a doctor for many years and as a daughter who's recently lost her father from a cancer-related illness. So I think for me, what I learned is that grief starts when you know somebody is really ill and that they may not survive. Grief is not just the after event, particularly if you have some mourning. And grief is not just an emotion, it's not just a sadness. I think grief is something that actually affects the entirety of who we are. And by that I mean our whole world is changed and our whole world is shaken in some way when we lose somebody. And that might be somebody we love and somebody who we know loved us, and there's a deep sense of loss of a really cherished person. But equally, we will feel grief when there's been people who've played a role in our worlds who have maybe not left the best legacy for us or have caused us sadness in their lifetime. And it means that these grief emotions can be big and can be changing and can be confusing. But actually, when we lose somebody, our whole body talks to us about our whole world has changed, something dangerous, something different has happened, something that you need to be alert to, and you will feel it in all of you in different ways. For example, when I lost my dad, one of the big things I had was headaches and just running thoughts, and finding it really difficult to sleep because my brain was saying, your world has changed, something's wrong, stay alert, don't sleep, stay alert. And of course that you end up in cycles of quite significant tiredness with that, and whole body tiredness was something I definitely really struggled with after my dad passed away. And my dad passed away in peace and in home, and we have a faith, a Christian faith that really helped us during that time. So I knew that I wasn't worried about where he was or his well-being or safety after he had passed, but my whole body was alert to this massive change. Other things you might feel might be churning tummy and, butterflies in your chest. You might have aches and pains, or all sorts of things can happen as your whole body physically tells you that your world has changed. And actually, emotionally, for me, that was the major thing I felt as well. I remember the next day after my dad passed, walking into the town and seeing regular people getting their milk and walking their dogs, and kids giggling on bicycles. And I remember in my head shouting, don't you know the whole world has changed? How can you do these normal things? How can you be like this world when the world has changed? And of course for them it hadn't, they didn't know, but for me my whole world had been turned upside down, and the loved ones around me had been turned upside down. Now, mental health as well, and I think it's really important to say that grief and bereavement is not a medical problem. It's part of us being human. It's a heart, soul, spirit thing we walk through in the whole sort of physical nature of who we are, and it's not a medical problem. However, there are times when grief is particularly challenging and particularly hard, and on top of that can come medical needs such as anxiety and depression. And if you already had a really sensitive brain to those types of things, grief can make those issues more sensitive and more difficult. So please seek help, and know that when we need help in grief, it's not because we are weak, it's because we are using wisdom. And we are not meant to grieve alone in isolation socially, even if some of us may need to grieve physically for a period of time right now alone. Actually, we need others, we need support. And we're in a wonderful situation in the world right now where we have so much support available electronically. We have wonderful bereavement charities and support groups and information that will help. So make use of that, and know that that is wisdom, that is not weakness, to seek help at any point on your journey, even if it's years down the line. There's help available for adults, for children, for carers, for those who have lost, whoever in your family you have lost, for those of you who have lost pets, or other important, people or creatures or loved ones in your world. Make use of all these resources, because we are human and we feel it, and it's real, and it's a journey that we all have to navigate at some point. I think as well it's really important to remember that in all of us grieving, we have a side of us which is spiritual. And I don't mean pink fluffy stuff by that, but I mean that we are meaning makers, that we are people who have values, that make meaning, that look for truth and have a sense of what is real and what is right and what is wrong. And all these things come into grief in a really unique way, I think. I think one of the most challenging things about grief is that it can really tip us spiritually. For many of us, we will also have a faith, and actually bereavement tests our faith in different ways and causes us to grow in our faith in very different ways. And if you need help because you're feeling spiritually at sea, don't stay in that distress, but take the courage to find time to ask those deep questions of yourself. Speak to trusted faith leaders or religious leaders if you need guidance about how you can navigate with your faith and with your faith community. And don't neglect that side of yourself. And when you are caring for yourself, remember again that this grief is every bit of you. So in the same way as that each bit of you cries out in bereavement, each bit of you needs to be nourished and helped and supported as you go through bereavement. So there's decisions you can make so you don't feel helpless in the sea of grief. Where you can make decisions, make ones that help nourish each bit of you. So for example, the physical nature of grieving, you can make choices that help you remember to eat well, and to eat things that nourish you, that give goodness to your body, that then help lift your mood because you have goodness inside you. And be careful what you buy and have in the cupboard. So if the comfort part of your brain is shouting for sugar or shouting for alcohol or something to bring comfort, just be mindful that you might want to reach for something, and little bits of treats, absolutely fine. But if what you reach for comfort actually causes you more harm in the long term, then there might be a better decision you could make. And that could even start by not putting certain things on the shopping list, so they're physically not available for you, and something better for you is physically available and at the end of your fingers to take when you need comfort, and you can nourish yourself at the same time. Your emotional and mental health. Tell your story when you feel able to. Maybe you can't speak at the time about your bereavement, but you could draw, you could, be out in the garden and use your hands and work through these emotions in a way. One of the things I would do very differently as and when in the future, because such is life, we lose our loved ones, is that I had small children, I was very, very busy, and I kind of burnt my way through quite a long period of of grief and just doing and sorting everybody else out. And I think I didn't have the courage perhaps to deliberately make time for me to sit and think about what happened. Again, I had a lot of peace about what happened, but I still needed to work through all the nature of bereavement and loss. Of course I did. And I think I probably, in that burning and busyness, put myself too much to the side, and that made things perhaps not as healthy as it could have been in my journey of grief. So please remember, it's not selfish to look after you, and particularly if you have dependents or children, the more you take care of you, the more you nurture you, the more you can fill up your soul, fill up who you are, just little by little in a period of grief, of bereavement. You'll be much healthier to be able to help others navigate the grief that you were all feeling as a family. Lastly, I want to say that, of course, at coronavirus time, like we said, it has shattered the ways we would normally say goodbye to people. And I personally feel that the emotions that could come up and haunt us at this time if we lose somebody are emotions such as guilt and shame, because we can't do the funeral the way we wanted to do. We can't say goodbye in the ways we would. We can't hug, we can't hold. And those are going to be, honestly, really painful for people at this time. But like I said, I really don't feel that emotions of guilt and shame have a place here. I want to encourage people to have the courage to put them aside if they try and bother you, and let us be a generation of people who can recognise that love, dignity and honour can be shown to our loved ones in ways that may need to be different from previous traditions, and that is okay. That is okay to do things differently right now. So I hope that if you are navigating bereavement and grief at this really difficult time, that you will be able to find resources and help to help you through this, that you don't feel alone, and please reach out for help if you do feel alone in it, and that we will come through this together over time. It does get easier, it definitely does. What I would say is that phrases like getting over it or moving on from the loss of a loved one are not appropriate with grief. For me, it's very much, you journey with your loved one. They are part of your life. They have invested in you. They're part of your journey, whatever that journey may have been. And actually you journey with them up to and including their death, and you journey forward with their legacy in you into a new normal and a new type of future with them. We don't get over it. We journey through and beyond, and we grow. So let's take courage to talk about these things. Go and get resources if you need to get practical affairs in order to. You'll have much more peace from doing it than being frightened of it. I've learned that from experience. And I hope that we can go through this difficult time together.